Welcome back. So, in last lectures we discussed about the landforms, mainly the fluvial and the coastal, and we ended with this slide. So, we are talking about the lagoons, and the lagoons are basically the enclosed landform protected by barrier beaches. Now, one more thing which I would like to mention here is that we see mostly, we consider that we will have beaches mostly comprised of sand, but in some locations you also have the beaches comprised by gravel, and this depends on the sediment supply from the mainland. So, mainly in the tropical regions you will find mostly the beaches with comprising of sand, whereas in the glacial terrain close to the ocean, then you will have the beaches comprised of gravel. So, the freshwater rivers drains into them and develop a sort of a wetland, or we can say marshes, because the enclosure enclosed landform or the feature along the coast will not have much of the water, saline water coming in, but during the higher high tides it may show this act as an brackish water body also. Along with that, we also will come across the thick cover of mangrove forest, and mangroves also helps in protecting the coastal erosion, and it has like it was experienced that in 2000, during 2004 tsunami, that those areas which were having thick mangrove cover along the coast were not been affected by the tsunami waves much actually. So, this is again and very important landscape which if we protect, then we are getting sort of a safeguard from the tsunami hazard. And tidal flats, mostly what we will see is close to the shorelines, and the deposits mainly we will see by very thin laminations of the sediments, as well as some cross bedded structures within that. So, you have the travel from the ocean side towards the beach or towards the mainland side, then you will find that you have an supratidal areas where slightly comparatively deeper water will be there, and then you have intertidal areas, and we have then the intertidal areas also will comprise of the mud flats. So, mostly we will see the fine deposits here, mixed deposits here in terms of the grain size, whereas mostly we will see the sandy material in the supratidal areas. So, the tidal flats are mostly related, like its formation is related to the tidal waves in the region. Like we also had some discussion about the dunes that they will be seen along the coastline, and the dune formation of course is related to the aeolian activity along the coastline, where we will mostly see the well sorted material getting deposited because of the wind action. And along some coasts, if you have dunes, again they plays an important role in controlling the erosion of the coastal region. So, if again we have the enclosure like what we see the beach reach or the dunes, then the shallower part at the behind the beach ridge or the dunes will be your shallow lagoon, and then you will have the tidal flats. So, this is an example which shows that how the barrier beach progressively allow the formation of the enclosure of the bay area or the lagoons. So, this is typical of the tropical coast. Again, the photograph which you see here is one we were talking about the mangroves, another is the coral reefs. So, coral reefs again will be seen in the areas where you have warmer climate and it needs a typical of 18 degrees to like something like 29 degrees of temperature, and it needs an sort of an clear water, clear and shallow waters for its survival. And of course, the corals never grow if they are exposed to the environment. Okay, they always remains within the tidal levels. This photograph which you see is again what we have discussed about the mangroves. Mostly in the tropical regions you will see the mangrove areas. Along with that, the most important feature which we will come across will be the coral reefs. And this coral reefs usually has been seen where you have the temperature of the water ranging between or you can say between, yes, okay, between 18 to 29 degrees centigrade, and then the salinity of the water ranges from like 32 to 35%. Now, this usually we will come across in the regions where we are having warmer waters, and in cold regions you may not come across the very much the formation of the coral reefs. Okay, and also it requires a condition that the sedimentation should be very low. So, low sedimentation and then you have a vigorous motion. Okay, so of the water. So, water circulation should be high here. So, these are few conditions which will favor the development or the evolution of the coral reefs. So, we will see the example of coral microatolls with respect to what we will try to identify the signature in terms of the tectonics. So, coming to this again, I will quickly move, and this I have already explained about the Andaman Island, and we see the coral reefs in this area and big microatolls over here. Even we were able to see the corals, because this whole island, what is the Neil Island and Havelock Island. Neil Island is completely comprised of corals and uplifted coral terraces, and this portion we have rocky cliffs of the older rock successions, but along with this we see on the periphery the development of coral reefs. So, coming to this is a photograph from Neil Island, which I was showing here. Sorry, not Neil Island, this is a North Reef Island. So, this photograph was, next photograph is from here. So, the North Reef Island, and this is located on the west coast, along the west coast of Andaman. Now, what you see here is that, as I was mentioning, that there are few factors which are required for the growth of the corals, and the corals be exposed even during the low tide levels. Okay, they will remain within the survival water level. Now, this photograph was taken after 2004 earthquake, and thus indicate that these corals are getting exposed during low tide, which should not be the case in normal conditions. So, this clearly suggests that there was some influence which resulted into the change in the water level, but the water level, that is the sea level, during 2004 did not change. So, if this was not the case, then what was the reason for the corals getting exposed? So, the reason here was that this island, that is North Reef Island, was uplifted, causing corals to get exposed. If such corals are exposed, then they will die. Okay. So, the next slides we will talk about that how coral grows and what are the signatures we can infer from the corals, if they are tectonic signatures or they are the sea level change. Okay. Now, as I was talking about that, you have like this is the lowest water level. The corals will keep growing laterally from the center, it will and vertically up, okay. And it will try to reach low tide. They may be exposed, but we can say that lower tide level. So, they will try to remain up to that. So, they will keep growing in upward as well as laterally, but when they are exposed, suppose this we expose this coral, I am putting a section here. Now, the water level has come down here, okay. Then what will happen, that it will keep growing like this here. So, it will further grow like that, but this portion which got exposed, this one, okay, this will die. Okay. So, the feature, if you see, if you connect this all, so you will be able to see something like this. Okay. So, you will have the coral shape will be something like that. Okay. We have to be careful when we are interpreting, looking to the coral structure, but of course, corals are very sensitive to climate change. So, if there is a lowering of sea level or rising of sea level, so basically if we say that sea level change, then either we say the sea level rise or sea level fall. Now, this, if it is climatic, then it will be gradual, but if it is tectonic, then during tectonic the sea level never falls, but it is because of the land level change. So, this will get recorded in the growth pattern of the corals. So, coral grows up to low tide level. So, it will try to reach up to this. So, if this is low tide level, then it will try to reach up to this and keep progressing on a lateral side. So, it will keep going further like that, then it will keep extending on lateral side, okay. But it will never grow above the low tide level. So, once at the low tide level, corals can only grow sidewise, okay. So, it will keep growing sidewise. Now, if there is a sudden change, for example, when the island sinks, okay. So, what happens is, again it will try to grow up. So, this was the last, so we can say the low tide level 1, and this is now the low tide level 2. So, what has happened, again it will start growing towards the low tide level 2, and also it will grow laterally. So, if you have a sudden change, then you will come across this typical feature, okay. So, you will have something like this, okay. So, this is an indicative of the sinking, that means your area has subsided. So, when the area has subsided, then the water level was the same, it inundate more, and then the corals will grow upward as well as laterally. So, when the island pops up, what happens? Okay. So, same pattern will be followed, but when it pops up again, it will try to. So, this was the, we can say that this was your low tide level 1, this was low tide level 2, and now you are having the low tide level 3 here. So, this is the new one. So, again the corals will start growing from here. Okay. So, it will of course try to reach upward and then try to progressing towards the lateral side. So, if you look at this one, then what we have is that we have the growth of the coral here, and then this is the earlier portion of tidal level, okay. And then there is a growth indicates that there was the area subsided. Anyway, this we will discuss when we are talking about we'll see, we'll try to talk if possible about this one, but this is an indication of. So, if I have to draw the profile here, then it clearly indicates something like this. Okay. So, it goes like that, and then you have this shape here. So, this is the low tide level 1, and this was growing until 2004, it was low tide level 2. Okay. Now, what will happen, because the low tide is over here, that is this ground. Okay. Now, the corals will start growing like that. Okay. So, as I told that this area got uplifted, this is again the photograph which was taken after 2004 Sumatra Andaman earthquake along the west coast, which indicates that the water used to come up to this location where we see the formation of beach before that means before 2004, and this is after 2004. So, the area got uplifted, there was no change in the sea level. So, how the environment get changed over the time, this is the photograph which we took after the 2004 earthquake in Car-Nicobar. So, what we see here is that there is an inspection bungalow of the army headquarters in Car-Nicobar, which is exposed to the wave action here, but before that this used to remain it used to have an 100-meter wide beach here, which now sits in water. So, that means that this area was subsided. So, since we were talking about that the wave action can result into the development of beach as well as beach ridge. So, what we saw after a couple of years. Okay. So, this was the photograph which we took in 2009 or so, or maybe 11, I am not very sure, but what we see here is that because of the tidal waves coming in and going back, the beach ridge has started developing in this area, whereas in the earlier case there is no beach ridge, because the beach was far away from this structure. So, this was, yes, of course, it was in 2009. So, the previous one was 2004, this one is 2004, and this one is 2009. So, again there is a signature of the area near Port Blair, where the area subsided and the land price went down. So, you can see this hut sitting here saying that house sites for sale, but nobody is interested because the area is getting inundated even during the low tide. So, this is the situation there in the Port Blair. Okay. This was around after 2004 earthquake. Another indication of subsidence is from the KANPUR beach, where we see that the coconut plantation, which normally never be seen sitting on the beach, are subjected to erosion. So, with the help of the local people and our understanding of the landforms, what we figured out was that this was the extent of the beach before 2004, and now it sits here. That means the beach development has moved towards land. That means the area subsided here, and so this was the higher water level before 2004. So mainly the water was reaching up to this point during the high tide, and now what we see is the present high water line is up to this one. So, water is getting in, and hence this whole area is getting eroded. So, this is a present beach here, and this is so always behind the beach towards the land you will find the development of the beach ridge. So, I will stop here and we will continue in the next lecture. Thank you so much.